Electronisounds Audio, the YouTube channel for you.
Hey, what's happening, friends? It's Dean from Electronisounds. Stick around. Today, we're going to be checking out the Caixa Eurorack case from Nano Modules. This is a really fantastic case for those who are looking to get started with Eurorack as your very first case, and also for those who are looking to expand your current setup with another small case. Come on, let's get into this. My very favorite thing about the Caixa case is the build quality. All of the components used in this build are really high quality, and this case is definitely built to last. But one of the other features that I'm really excited about is the default built-in inputs and outputs. So we don't need to buy a separate input module to run signals into the case, and we don't need to buy a separate output module to run our signals out of the case. That's a really big cost saver in the end right there, and these are really high quality components. I've been able to get a really hot signal out of the case and really clean as well. Now, while the initial investment in the Caixa case might be a little bit more expensive than some other cases of a similar size, I found that these included utility modules are not only super helpful, but really help to justify the price tag. Let's count these up and see what we're actually getting in the case. We start with a set of balanced inputs. Next up, we have some buffered multiples. We also have a precision adder, and we have 4 LFOs. We have a sample and hold module, and we have a stereo mixer. Lastly, we have a stereo and a headphone output. Now that's 7 individual modules that we would need to buy separately for a different case, and these modules are all on the same par of the overall build quality of the Caixa case. I'm getting a lot of use out of these utility modules, and it's kind of nice to just know that they're in the case and I don't need to worry about adding a whole lot of extra utilities. I can worry mostly about adding extra voices and effects to the case. This is a great visual example of why I've chosen the Electronisounds MIDI to trigger module for this drum machine. I can send MIDI into this module from any device I choose and turn that MIDI into actual trigger signals that we can use to trigger the modules in the case. We can even use something like Beatmaker 3 on an iPad to sequence MIDI to this module. Here, I'm using an IK Multimedia iRig MIDI 2 module to send MIDI from the iPad into the Electronisounds MIDI to trigger module. And now, once I've got the MIDI channel set inside of Beatmaker 3, all I need to do is tap these pads and we'll see that the triggers are being triggered on the module. Now, all I need to do is sequence something inside of Beatmaker 3, and there we have it. Let's see what I can come up with. Aside from the build quality of the Caixa case, these balanced inputs have got to be my absolute favorite feature of the case. I can run the audio out of any groove box that I'm using to send MIDI to the case. I can run the audio from that as well directly into the case, and then I can either route that audio through the case if I want, or directly to this stereo mixer and then on to the stereo outputs. This is really, really handy. And in this example with Beatmaker 3, I'm using just that. I've got the iPad running into an Ovation Audio Hub 2x4 audio interface. The iRig the IK Multimedia iRig MIDI 2, which we discussed earlier, is plugged into that audio interface. This is how I'm getting MIDI from the iPad to the case, and the audio coming out from the audio interface is just going directly into these inputs on the back of the case and through mixed with the Eurorack output to that main output on the Caixa case. What a cool setup. So in this example, not only am I sending a MIDI pattern to these modules over here through the Electronisounds MIDI to trigger module, but I'm also sending audio from the iPad through the system. I've got a square bass preset here. I've got some dub stabs, which you'll hear in just a minute, and also a chiptune strings sound that I can play in real time inside of Beatmaker 3. Check out this example, you guys. Now, if you're like me and maybe you have some 1U modules that you're really fond of, you might be looking at the Caixa case and saying, Dean, there's no room for me to put in my own 1U modules. Well, what I've done here to get my favorite 1U modules from Mosaic, oh, I can't live without this Mosaic snare, you guys. What I've done is I've used this adapter from Zodes. The company name is Xodes. I hope I'm saying that right, Zodes. Anyway, I'm going to put a link to these adapters down in the description if you want to check these out for yourself. I've been getting these from my local synth shop, Perfect Circuit, and they come in a few different sizes. So depending on what 1U modules you might want to get into the case, you can get a different size adapter. You might have noticed I like to use a lot of modulation in my patches. Now, the Caixa case comes with 4 built-in LFOs, and I've been sending those modulation signals through this buffered multiple and duplicating those modulation signals. But frankly, I like a lot more copies of the modulation signals in my patches, and I've been achieving that using these awesome ninja stars from Plankton. I really like these. The sides are smooth, and they come with a little hole in the middle so we can kind of route them and mount them in and amongst our cable spaghetti. I've been using these a lot. In fact, this patch is using 4 of these. I'm going to put a link to these awesome ninja stars from Plankton in the description of this video if you want to check these adapters out for yourself and get some more duplications of your modulation. Hey, if you made it this far and you're still watching, thank you very much for the support. I just want to discuss one more quick, really positive feature of the Caixa case before I play you the last example today. And that's about the rails inside of this case that I'm screwing all of the modules into. I've had experience with enough cases now to know that some of the rails that I've worked with are a little bit better quality than others. Some, you take a little bit more time to fuss with the screws and getting everything in the case. I've had a few cases where the rails were a little bit iffy, and I've had trouble actually getting the screws into some of the rails on some other cases. But with the Caixa case, so far, the rails have been absolutely pristine, and I've had 0 issues screwing any modules into these rails, which is a really great thing. Also, the depth on this case is enough so that I have not had any issues when trying to get my modules into the case. It's got a nice depth to it as well, so we can get some of the deeper modules to fit in here as well.